Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Member Dunford on the line yet?
I have not seen her yet.
Okay.
Oh, she's just having a bit of a technical problem, so I'm just going to assist her, and she'll be with us shortly.
Okay.
Holly, is anyone else joining you this morning? Just as we.
No, no one. Not that I'm aware. I don't think the owners are joining.
Mr. Chair, you're just muted.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thanks very much for attending this morning, Friday, June the 11th, our Committee of Adjustment meeting. We have one item on the agenda. I would like to welcome everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Township YouTube channel. We'll be holding the meeting as if it's in our council chambers, and we follow all the regular policies and procedures in our procedural bylaw. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on a matter, and I, as chair, will call on you. When I call for the vote, I will call all those in favor, followed by all those opposed. And you will I'll ask you to physically raise your hand to vote in a manner that you wish to do so. I would also remind everyone to please address your comments through the chair. I'd like to call the roll now. Please raise your hand and state your presence when I call your name, please. Member Wendy Dunford.
Present.
Member Rod Manley.
Present.
Member Jim Patterson.
Present.
And myself, Carl Moher, Deputy Mayor. Along with us today, we have Deputy Clerk Planning Coordinator Martina Chait Hartwig, and doing some of the technical behind the scenes work is Nicole Zinner and Vanessa Sweeting. So thank you everyone for attending. The first item here, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the item in front of us. So seeing no nods, we can proceed. Approval of the minutes of May 28th. If somebody could move those. Wendy, seconded by Rod. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's carried. Minor variance for David Brown. Martina, I'm going to ask you to provide some updates with it. And I think there's some more updates that weren't part of the package. So you'll be highlighting those in your preamble.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is minor variance A0421 for David Brown. The agent is Holly Richards Conley. She's on the line with us this morning. The property is located at Concession 3, Part Lot 28, known as 2202 McCracken's Landing Road in the Dummer Ward. The purpose of the application is that the property owner would like to construct a new detached garage on the property. To permit the proposed garage, variances are required to increase the lot coverage for an accessory structure from 5% to 6.93%, a variance of 1.9%, and to increase the accessory structure's building height from 4.5 meters to 4.72 meters, a variance of 0.22 meters, which is just over 8.6 inches. All of this information is shown on the site plan prepared by JBF surveyors dated October 9th, 2020. We have received some comments on this application. Curve Lake has stated that they have no concerns with the application so long as Orca staff are content with it. We did receive a letter from Orca dated June 1st, 2021. I won't read the full letter, but the gist of it is that they have no concerns with this application and they feel it meets both the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Staff had requested comments from the management team. None were received. I'll let Holly speak about the property in detail when we get to her. I did provide quite a detailed recommendation for this application. This is the format that I'm going to be using going forward as well to provide the committee with a bit more information and to understand where staff are coming from when we make our recommendation. So staff are recommending that this application be approved. Staff feel that it meets the 4 tests. The request is minor in nature as the lot coverage taken as a whole will only be 12.28%. The increase in the accessory lot coverage is 1.3% and the increase in height is negligible at 8.6 inches. Further, the application is desirable and appropriate to the development of the land as it maintains the residential nature of the area, and many of the other properties in the area also have detached garages or storage buildings on their property. The application meets the general intent of the official plan as section 6.2.2 rural has permitted uses, which allows for low density residential development, and section 6.2.23 rural policies allows for a maximum of 1 single detached dwelling. The application meets the general intent of the zoning bylaw as section 3.1.1 allows for accessory buildings, structures, and uses. And further, there is a definition 22.88 for private garage or garages, private, which refers to an accessory building used for the sheltering of permitted vehicles and storage of household equipment incidental to a residential occupancy. Finally, we're also asking that the following conditions be imposed on this application: that the variance would be for the life of the structure only, that the applicant obtain any necessary permits from Orca, the Douro-Dummer Building Department, Trans-Severn Waterways, or any other required ministry or agency, that proper building plans be submitted with the building permit application based on the design included with the application and the site plan prepared by JBF surveyors dated October 9th. Verification from an Ontario land surveyor be provided to the township's chief building official after the structure is framed to confirm that all applicable setback requirements and height have been met and to ensure compliance with any relief granted by this decision. Further, that if any archaeological artifacts are found during construction, that all development shall be halted immediately and the proper agency be contacted. There were 2 items listed in the original report. One regarding an archaeological study and the other one regarding a planting plan. Both of those conditions have been removed because of information from Orca and Curve Lake First Nations.
Thank you, Martina. Holly, any further comments before we open it to comments or questions from the committee? Welcome, first of all.
Through you, the chair. Good morning. No, just I know I'm asking for a very small increase in height, but there is a storage shed to the back of the house that you can't see from the road, and it is slightly over the lot line. And so in order to be able to tear down that storage shed, they're going to be moving that stuff into the very small attic space on top of the garage. And so that's why we were asking for the small increase in height. And I know that Douro-Dummer includes pools and pool decks in the overall lot coverage, but if the pool wasn't there, I just wanted to point it to the committee that the sort of structures, the buildings itself on the property would only equate out to 3.28%. So we would have been under the accessory lot coverage if the pool wasn't there.
Thank you for that. Now, members, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Wendy.
Through you, the chair, to Martina, I'm just wondering, Holly just mentioned that the shed at the back of the house is going to be removed. Does that need to be added as one of the conditions?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It does not, because it's shown on the site plan that was attached to the application that it's going to be removed. So that will be part of the overall site plan process when they go to apply for their building permit.
Thank you.
So this whole application is going to clean up an existing condition there, or situation that didn't necessarily meet all the requirements to date.
Exactly.
Any further comments? Rod, go ahead.
Not a comment, just the fact that I'd like to move a motion that we approve this application. I don't see any issues with it. It seems to fit well into what's already around and cure some issues. So I'd like to move that motion.
Okay, and by moving it, you're assuming that all 4 tests are met.
Yes.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Wendy,
Yes, I'll second.
any further comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Now there's a resolution to receive the further information regarding the application. Would we have a motion from the committee? Wendy would receive that, and seconded by Jim. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? It's carried. So pardon me, Martina, did I notice your hand at the last minute?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm with the mover and seconder that they wanted to use the language as presented in the report for their motion.
Is that what was intended, Wendy?
Yes.
And Jim?
Is that the motion that you mean, Martina, the second one?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct, Wendy.
Yes, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Jim, you're okay with that? Okay. Well, that's it for this. There's Holly, you're quite familiar with the 20-day appeal process. And how's that little one doing these days?
He's not so little, he's 2 and he's a chaos maker.
Terrible too, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, our next meeting is June the 25th. And I believe that Martina, you've got a number of issues coming up that will be handled at that meeting. And also, just before we adjourn this portion of the meeting, there is applications or requests out on the website and publicly looking for a 5th member for this committee. And we're sorry to lose Ken on the committee. However, things happen, and that's what we're dealing with. So hopefully, I think the submissions are requested back by Monday so that they can maybe be considered at Township Council on Tuesday evening. So hopefully we'll have a new member for that 25th meeting of June. So Wendy, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a question for Martina. I've noticed a change last meeting and this meeting in regards to staff making a recommendation as to whether we approve or not.
Yes.
And I thought as part of the minor variance report for procedure that was up to the committee to make that recommendation. So what's behind the change? I'm just curious.
Just before Martina answers that, I believe that most, whether it be land division or committees of adjustment in the past, quite often that was the situation, that there was a recommendation and details as well. So, but Martina, perhaps you can add more information to that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, great question, Wendy. Staff have always included a recommendation on our reports. That was always the text at the bottom of the report where it listed the conditions. I'm now just being extra explicit as to where that information is coming from and why staff are bringing it forward. I know there's been some questions in the past about maybe why staff had certain ideas or why they were imposing different conditions on applications. So as to clear that up and provide more information so the committee can make informed decisions. I'm just trying to bring that information to the forefront.
And also, staff, if I could just put a comment in here, quite often staff are more familiar with some of the provincial regulations that keep on changing about what our role is. And I think that's where many of us, we don't keep up on the day-to-day changes that seem to be occurring at provincial level that we have no choice but to follow. Martina?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. That's a great point. And also for this committee, the Committee of Adjustment, you are a quasi-judicial board. So you're not making a recommendation. The committee is making a final decision. It can then be appealed to the new Ontario Land Tribunal, which used to be LPAT, which used to be OMB. But this committee makes decisions, not recommendations. Whereas the Planning Committee, which will enter into that type of meeting later this morning, it makes recommendations to council and council makes the final decision. But staff, whenever we bring an application forward, whether it's to this committee, Planning Committee, or to council or a special meeting, we always provide some type of recommendation so that committee members can use that to make their decisions or to ponder what may be of interest to them.
Okay, thank you, Martina. Any further comments or questions? Wendy?
Oh, I just wanted to thank Martina for that update. I guess the website needs to be updated because the mandate for the Minor Variance Committee says that it's the committee's role to make that call. So it's just a little outdated, I guess, with the new information that we have. So thanks very much.
Okay, so any further comments? Okay, I have a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Jim and Wendy, all in favor? Okay, carried. And looks like we've got a 9:15 for the Committee of Planning, so I think we can go right into that right now. It looks like we're 9:18. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to let another person into the meeting and then we will have the whole team here.
Okay.
Just one moment. Thank you. All right, through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Taylor, the applicant, has now joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you and welcome everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order for Planning Committee for June the 11th of 2021. Welcome, Mr. Taylor. I welcome everyone. Before I begin, I would like to remind you that our meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Township YouTube website. We're holding the meeting as though we're the council chambers, as if we're in the council chambers, and we'll follow all the regular procedures of the procedural bylaw. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak on a matter, and I, as chair, will call on you. When I call for the vote, I'll also ask you to raise your hand, and those opposed, if there's anyone opposed, we'll ask you to raise your hand as well. So I'd like to introduce the members of the committee. Member Wendy Dunford.
Present.
Okay, member Jim Patterson.
Present.
Member Rod Manley.
Present.
And myself, Carl Moher, Deputy Mayor and Chair of this committee. Also, we present is Deputy Clerk Planning Coordinator Martina Chait-Hardwick. Martina, and also helping us with the technical behind the scenes is Nicole Zinner and Vanessa Sweeting. And Mike Taylor, thanks very much for attending. Okay, I guess the first thing I'd like to ask for any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the application we have in front of us. So no, nothing indicated. Approval of the minutes, May 28th, 2021. Wendy? Rod, any comments or questions? All in favor? of receiving those? Okay, thank you. It's carried. Next item is severance application B 2021 and 21-21, 959 County Road 6, Douro-Dummer, for the Taylors. Martina, can you take us through highlights of the committee of this application? It was dealt with at our last meeting, and there's a number of new information that's before us now. So Martina, can you please update the committee, the highlights?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're very correct. At the last meeting we had in May, I had previously written a report based on the information available. Just prior to that meeting, new information was released from both ORCA and the county, which had a substantial change on the report and my recommendation. So I've now written this new report based on the additional comments we've received. So this is for the creation of 2 residential lots. The applicant, Mike Taylor, is on the line with us. The severed lot A, B, and the retained lot all meet the official plan policies. They're all in the rural area, and the uses proposed are allowed. There's been no previous consents in the past 25 years. The zoning of severed lot A and B is rural, and rezonings will not be required. The retained lot is rural and ECP, and a rezoning is not required for that lot either. The proposed lots are located within 120 meters of key natural heritage and hydrological features. Oak Ridge Environmental had submitted a report with this application to address the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Further to that, additional information was provided to ORCA based on, Oak Ridge provided additional information to ORCA to address some of the comments that ORCA had previously had. And ORCA staff have now provided us with a letter that breaks out all of the additional information. And the takeaway is that it meets the policies of the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. Copies of all the letters and additional information were attached to your package if you have not had a chance to see them yet, and they are available on our website. So in reviewing these 2 applications, in light of the comments from ORCA dated June 1st and information from the county, staff are satisfied that these applications are in compliance with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. Safe entrances are regulated by the County of Peterborough in this location, and they have stated that those entrances are possible. Our chief building official has visited the site and has stated that there is limited soil depth, so it will need a raised septic system. And he has attached a report. There's no other concerns. A copy of the preliminary severance review was attached. Just a comment as we go through and we look at more and more of these consents, and they get more and more challenging because of natural heritage features and new provincial regulations. What you see on the preliminary severance review may not be what you see on the consent application itself because of the various revisions and studies the applicant has done to move their application forward. So you can think of the preliminary severance review as the first kick at the can, and then the finalized version is the application that ends up before the committee. And even that may change based on additional information requested by agencies. So further to that, test wells for the septic system have already been reviewed, and the results were satisfactory. All department managers have been circulated for comment on both applications, and none were received. And staff are recommending that the committee recommend to council that severance application B-2021 and B-2121 from Michael and Melissa Taylor be approved, and if approved by the Peterborough Land Division Committee, that the following condition be imposed. A $1,250 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the municipality for each lot. Previously, there was a condition regarding mitigation measures, but we have received information from ORCA that they are no longer requesting that condition be imposed, and so we're removing it from our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, have you any comment further before I ask the committee to comment or have any questions?
My only comment would be to thank the committee for making the time available today. As Martina said, additional information was made available from County and Orca just before the previous meeting. And so I really appreciate the flexibility and willingness to be available today. And thank you to Martina, who's been really helpful in providing information and helping me understand the process, because this is all new to me. And there's been, as she kind of said, a lot of changes in working through the process, working with the county, working with Orca. And so thank you for her patience with me and for her guidance and support in kind of moving through the process. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, committee members, any questions? Wendy, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Martina, I guess. I think the last report that came to us showed that there was a right-of-way and a concern regarding the right-of-way. Maybe, Martina, can you explain to us what's happened in regards to that?
Go ahead, Martina.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in the previous report, the county had identified that there was a right-of-way present. The county has now done further review and investigation and has determined that that right-of-way is not there. And further, the driveways that are being proposed have been adjusted so that they're a mutual driveway instead of trying to use what was previously thought of as a right-of-way. So that issue has been addressed.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments? Rod?
Just, I also, again, Wendy got the question and that was good. So we didn't really know how that came to be or how that got fixed, which was interesting. And thanks for the explanation of that. I have drove past these lots several times and I think they're an ideal location and a great fit for that location. So again, if the laneways got fixed, that's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready for a motion to recommend to council? Wendy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll motion approval with the recommendations that were presented in our report.
Okay, seconder?
Sure.
Jim? Okay, is there any further comments or questions? All in favor of that recommendation? It's carried. Okay, now that will go to Township Council at a near future meeting. Mr. Taylor, and you will receive information from on various, probably from Martina and from the County Land Division as to when it will be put forward for further approvals. We are one commenting agency among many others. So, and I'm sure you're quite familiar with the routine now, which is quite complex. So thank you very much for your patience, and hopefully this is one step forward to advance the what you wish to do with your property there on County Road 6. Okay, anything further to come forward to this committee today?
Mr. Chair, I believe Rod has a question or a comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Rod.
Just a learning moment for myself more so. Last previous meeting, we had severance of lots where we required the wells to be drilled or approved. And this one, and again, I'm not picking, I just wonder why water is important, or is there certain times we do this and certain times we don't?
Yeah, go ahead, Martina.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a great question, Rod. We rarely ask for wells to be drilled in advance or as a condition of a severance because we understand how onerous that is on the applicant. In the case of the report from last meeting, I believe that was a lot to be created in the village of Douro. The village of Douro is known to be a location where water is challenging to find, and we have other reports on file showing that water is hard to find. Plus, we've also heard anecdotally from neighbors and community members that they had concerns about water. There have been some other applications in the past where we've also asked for wells. So It's not something we do very often, but when we have reports available to us and comments and concerns from the public, we try to address that through the request.
As well, there's a section of the south end of the hamlet of Warsaw. It's very, there's water issues there. And anymore with these lots being sold to an individual that it comes into a situation and all of a sudden they've got a water problem and they've paid substantial monies for the lot. And mortgage companies, it's hard to get a mortgage if there's no potable water on the property. So that's one of the issues we're trying to head off, situations whereby people are into a situation of a no-win of a lot that can't get a proper water supply. So that's the reason for it. And anything further to come to this committee? So our next meeting is June the 25th. I wish everyone a good weekend, and hopefully we will have a fifth candidate or fifth member of this committee by the time we meet again. So thank you very much for attending this morning. Wendy?
I'll just motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And seconded by
Sure.
Rod. And all in favor? Okay, it's carried. So have a good weekend.
Thanks everyone for your
Thank you,
time.
everyone. Good meeting.